Vampire Tekking rises again! Once a year, I'm brought back from the dead. It's very, very confusing. Ever since that JoJo guy punched me in the face, that's been what we've been doing with my life, and that's been strange. Last time I recall I was talking to you guys, I was doing that choose your own adventure thing. Remember that? Yeah. Oh, by the way, I never gave you completionist XPs for that. If you did the choose your own adventure Halloween thing last year, congratulations. You're awarded 5 wisdom points. So take those wisdom points and do stuff with them. In today's spooky installment of Horroween, we're going to be talking about zombies! Why is there a brick here? Zombies. Specifically the Thriller Bark zombies. Now you might think there's really not much to talk about, because the zombies on Thriller Bark, well, for one thing, they're all dead now. Dead again, dead twice. How do you exactly describe a zombie being dead a second time? At any rate, they're all immobile right now. They're just a bunch of corpses rotting on the island because Moria absorbed all the shadows for his Shadows Asgard! And then after that, he was punched and his stomach was pumped by Luffy, and then, that's basically what happens. One Piece is a weird series if you haven't picked up on it yet. But, interestingly enough, one of those zombies was Captain John. He was a general zombie. That's right. Now, at that point in the story, when Captain John's zombie arose as one of the general zombies, we knew about his name, because I believe it was earlier that Buggy had mentioned he was looking for Captain John's treasures. So while Luffy and everybody in the whole Straw Hats were doing the, Pirate King, Kaizoku Oni Oriwanar, find the One Piece, Buggy set his sights on a much more, less famous, but still very popular treasure called Captain John's treasure. And Buggy was in a random mine, and he ended up stumbling upon a marine outpost, and that's how Buggy got thrown and impaled down. Although the funny, wacky adventures of Buggy D. Clown, right? So we knew who Captain John was, but we didn't know who Captain John was. We didn't know how important he really was going to be to the story, okay? And so, of course, the way that zombies work is that you take someone else's shadow and throw it into the zombie, and they're animated with that person's personality and stuff. I was a little bit confused by this for a while because, when Ryuma was reanimated with Brook's shadow, Ryuma still seemed to be like, I am a samurai from Wano Kuni. So I'm like, do they get their memories back? But I'm thinking basically what that happened with was maybe it was Brook's shadow that knew a little bit about Wano, and then maybe Hogback told Ryuma when Ryuma got animated with Brook's shadow. He's like, arise, Ryuma! You are the mighty samurai from Wano! And Ryuma gets up and he grabs, where's Shusui? Shusui's at, here it is. He grabs Shusui and he's like, okay. And then everything else was just muscle memory from there on out, right? But the zombies don't have memories from when they were alive. All they have is their personality and mannerisms from the shadow they received, okay? So even though we see Captain John in Thriller Bark, we don't really see Captain John in Thriller Bark. We just see his corpse animated with some other shadow. And the way that Moria tended to do this with his operation was, the stronger the person, the stronger the shadow, the stronger the zombie body or marionette that they would put it in. This is why Oars, a special zombie, number 900, had to have a particularly powerful shadow in Luffy's shadow, okay? They couldn't just throw any random shadow. So I'm sure Captain John's corpse was animated, all the general zombies' corpses were animated with very strong warriors' shadows, okay? That's just a requirement there. Now, John didn't really do much in Thriller Bark, and in fact, not a lot of the general zombies really did anything, because the vast majority of general zombies get crushed by Oars' butt. I love that! Oda is like, I will introduce to you the zombie generals. And by the way, go back and watch that episode when Absalom awakens the zombie generals. It's so creepy. Absalom goes in this big creepy church and the soundtrack's playing in the background da, 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 da. He opens up the big creaky giant wooden doors and there's stained glass and crosses everywhere, and he's just like, arise, zombie generals, warriors of days long past, rent our enemies, rise anew. And it's they're all dormant, because a lot of the other zombies on Thriller Bark are you've got the wild zombies that just kind of wander the whole island whenever they want, the surprise zombies that stay in the manor and Hogback's mansion and Moria's castle that just pop out of paint paintings or whatever. It's like, oh, it's a bearskin rug. And then you step on it, and then the zombie's like, whoa, I'm a zombie bearskin rug. I'm like, no! But then the general zombies remain dormant in this church or mausoleum or whatever you want to call it, and they only appear whenever Absalom, their commander, or Moria, I guess, because Moria is also the commander of all the shadows of all the zombies, requires their assistance, okay? So it's a very, very creepy scene where Absalom's like, rise up, and they all come out of their coffins, and, you know, one of them is like buried underground, and it gets up, and he has like 4 arms, and like each one has a gun, and then there's that one that has like a weird bobblehead sort of thing. He's like really long, like a giraffe neck, and then like a bobblehead. He has a spear. There's this giant titan of a zombie that just arises, got huge freaking shoulder pads and golden armor. That was number 889. Got a giant sword like the size of a tree. John pops out of his coffin with sword still sticking in his body. I love that. Like, what is the practicality of that? Well, actually, I guess that does have practicalities, you know. We're gonna reanimate zombie John, but we're gonna make sure to have swords still in him. And it's like, well, that's good, because then he has swords to grab whenever he needs it, right? He also was buried with a bottle of booze, apparently. How does a zombie get drunk? Well, keep in mind, once again, it's not the zombie John that's drinking, it's the shadow of the person that was put in John that was probably a heavy drinker. And you know what that means, ladies and gentlemen? That means that's an addiction, and you should really seek help, Captain John. You're drinking yourself even after you die. The person's shadow is such an alcoholic that they're still drinking, so that person needs to get some help. They got their shadow back at the end of the arc, but yeah, they need to go get a sponsor or something. I'm just saying. So yeah, John pops out of his coffin, sword stabbed, he's drinking, and Absalom's like, the Straw Hats are pitiful. They number only 8. They'll fall quickly. Now follow me, my zombie generals. Absalom, you know, he wasn't much. He didn't have a lot to go on here, but he was the commander of the zombie generals. He had a lion face, he could turn invisible, and he had a pair of, like, wrist-mounted bazookas. Alright, that's all Absalom had going for him, so you know, this was like the best time of the year for him, when Moria gives him the order to go wake up the zombie generals, and he's like, oh, I get to command the mighty warriors of the past. This is like the one day a year he's the most happy. He's like, rise, my mighty zombie generals! Whoa! Anyway, they're leaving the church, and like all the other zombie generals are marching off to go fight the Straw Hats. Meanwhile, you have Captain John off to the side that's just kind of like, you know, swigging it back, and he's just like, ugh. And freaking Absalom's like, hey, get it together, Captain John. Show a little bit of your reputation from when you were still alive. You know, you're supposed to be this great pirate. John's just like, aye, Captain, whatever. And he just wanders off like he's not going to be very reliable. And we're waiting to see what's going to happen with these dudes. I think Luffy does fight against a few of the zombie generals. Zoro's shadow is put in Jigoro, who is also a zombie general. But the vast majority of these guys right here, yeah, we don't get to see them at all because they get crushed by Oars' ass. His Oars just falls and he's like, what's that? Bam! And then John gets crushed, the giant titan dude gets crushed, this dude with a silver axe kind of looking thing gets crushed. The majority of them just get crushed. And then by the end of the arc, you know, Moria uses Shadow's Asgard and sucks all up their shadows, so we don't get anything more from them. Although John being there was relevant in the end, because in the treasure hold of Thriller Bark, we got Captain John's, like, treasure band that Luffy ended up wearing and then he eventually gave to Buggy, who I'm assuming after the 2 years and having all of the help of the all the help of the Impel Down prisoner escapees and everybody else working on his crew, Buggy was able to locate Captain John's treasure, and so that's maybe part of the reason why he was able to rise to becoming a warlord, be so successful as a warlord, right? He actually had the capital to back it up, okay? So we later find out that Captain John is, of course, a member of Rox's crew. Alright, so I'm like, alright, that got people thinking. So I think people at that point went back to Thriller Bark, looked at all the general zombies, and were thinking, wait a second, if Captain John was a member of Rox's crew and he's in Thriller Bark, he was a zombie, what are these other general zombies? What if they're also members that were mentioned? What if this dude with a silver axe really was the silver axe? I see a lot of people saying the big Titan guy, that's because he was like focused on a lot. Maybe that was Wang Zhi. We could be looking at Wang Zhi's, well, at least his corpse, right here. Because you figure, okay, if Moria was able to acquire the corpse of John, then he would also probably be able able to acquire other strong corpses. I'm not ruling it out. I don't know if these, you know, individuals, these zombies in particular, were Wang Ji and Silver Axe or whatever. And, you know, at the end of the day, you could say, it was like, well, why would Oda, you know, showcase them so earlier on in the story without even focusing on them all that much? Well, if they are truly dead, and I don't want them all to be dead, so that's one of the problem here. I don't want Wang Ji and Silver Axe and Captain John to be dead. We definitely know Captain John's dead. We know that 100%, but we don't know about Wang Ji and Silver Axe and the other members of the crew. Well, we know Shiki's still alive. We know, obviously, Kaido, Big Mom, Whitebeard is dead. Kaido and Big Mom are still alive, and we don't know about Rox yet, okay? And it's like, there's only 8 members of Rox's crew. Also, that's something else to keep in mind. We only know about 8 members of Rox's crew. I'm assuming Rox, this super powerful pirate from back in the day that was so powerful that even Garp said, like, you know, they had a hard time fighting him, and if they came back right now, they'd be screwed, probably had more than 8 people on his crew. Now, I'm sure the strongest fighters out of that were probably, you know, maybe 10 to 20. I'm sure Rox probably had, like, hundreds of people on his crew, but not all of them were fighters, like, on the level of Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido as an apprentice, you know, Wang Ji, you know. Not everybody can hold a candle to Wang Ji, you know what I'm saying? So, obviously, there might be more members of Rox's crew, and these general zombies might make those up, okay? They might very well include those there. Where did Moria obtain John's corpse? We do not know how that went down. We have absolutely no idea, but at some point, Moria stumbled upon John's corpse and took it. We know that Kaido was a member of Rox's crew back in the day, and we know Moria fought against Kaido at Wano and was defeated. That's how his original crew was wiped out. That's also where he obtained Ryuma and Shusui while at Wano. That also might be, by the way, where they obtained Jigoro. Jigoro's corpse, the general zombie that Zoro's shadow animated, because I don't think it was ever stated that Jigoro was a samurai, but, you know, the sandals and everything kind of resemble, and he has the top knot, so maybe he's a samurai. Did he have a top knot? I know he had long hair, but I'm thinking, like, if Moria had enough time to steal Ryuma, the sword god's corpse, and Shusui from the cemetery in Ringo, I'm assuming Moria probably, oh, hey, instead of just taking one strong samurai from Wano, let's take a few samurai corpses from Wano, you know, to get back at Kaido for beating the crap out of me. So maybe he took a few strong samurai corpses back to Hogback, stitched them up. Obviously, Ryuma was the strongest, but maybe, you know, Jigoro also was one. I think it was revealed in a Vivre card, Jigoro's only piece of backstory was one time when he was alive, he slayed like 7,000 pirates. Not several thousand pirates, 7,000 pirates exactly. With one attack? I don't know, and it was to protect his family. So that sounds like something that a samurai of Wano would do. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, who actually knows, okay? So that might be the origin of Jigoro, but we have no idea where freaking John came from, or any of the majority of the general zombies came from. And also, keep in mind, Hogback was a mad scientist, okay? So he was obviously doing all this kind of crazy, you know, Frankenstein-esque crap, and so he was, like, experimenting on everybody and ripping them apart, and like, I will add a centaur body to this zombie general, and just goes crazy. Okay, so a lot of these guys probably don't resemble what they looked like in life. Now, Captain John looks more mummified, right? He looks like a mummified corpse. He's got no eyes. His eye sockets are empty. He's, like, got swords stabbed in him, which that might have been added after he was turned into a zombie, so he has weapons. And he was such a heavy drinker that he's like, well, if I'm holding swords, how am I supposed to drink? Wait a second, I have an idea. Shing! Shing! Okay, then. Glug, 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 glug. Yeah, I don't know. But they're not the real, actual members of Rox's crew. So the fact, like, let's just say, for instance, that they were. Let's just say that this really was Silver Axe, this really was Wang Ji, alright? We saw their corpses, they got crushed by Oars' butt, and we're probably never going to see their bodies again. That's perfectly acceptable, because they were just the corpses animated by other shadows. We could still have a flashback, and actually the flashback would be cool, because then if we go to the flashback and we see this is what Silver Axe was in the flashback, we'd be like, oh, wait a second, we already saw that guy! He was a Thriller Bark, he was a zombie general! Holy crap, Oda! Yeah, so that might be something Oda's doing here, is like, I'm gonna have this joke where I'm gonna have these zombie generals, you know, marching around Thriller Bark, like, about to fight the Straw Hats. Like, I don't know, here's a question for you. If all of the Straw Hats went up against the zombie generals, how do you think that would have went? Like, all of the zombie generals assembled here by Absalom go up against the Straw Hats. Captain Zhang, the big Titan dude, the centaur dude, the guy with like spiked necklace and all that stuff, they're all wandering around. They could all be members of Rox's crew from days long past as well. How would that go over? You might say, it's like, well, all the Straw Hats were able to defeat Oars. I'm like, yeah, but Oars was like one enemy, and he was a pretty big target. It still took a lot out of them, but he was one target. You know, you have a good chunk, a few dozen of these zombie generals. There was that one dude that had like 4 arms like grafted to him, probably didn't have 4 arms in life, and he had like guns and he was like, ugh, you know, I was like, that dude would have been interesting to see in action, right? So, yeah, I think we saw some of them in action, but not all of them, right? And so, yeah, they get crushed by Oars, and we don't get to see them more beyond that. But, you know, how would that have went with the Straw Hats? I think the Straw Hats would have been able to beat them, but it would have been a very hard fight. Okay, but yeah, that might be just a setup, and Oda's just like, haha, we're not going to do anything else with their bodies, but later on we're going to find out more about them, just like Captain John. You know, when we first saw Captain John drinking, we're just like, oh, that's the dude that he was looking for his treasure, right? That's interesting. And then later out, you find the rocks thing, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we know who that dude is, right? So, yeah. Now, I like to think that I don't give a crap about Silver Axe, okay? I really don't give a shit. I'm sorry, Silver Axe. Maybe you're gonna turn out to be still alive, you're gonna be super relevant to this story. I don't know. All I care about is Wang Zhi, alright? I want to see Wang Zhi still alive, alright? Shiki can even be dead. I don't care. Shiki slipped on a banana peel last week, and he ended up dying. You know, he didn't activate his float powers at the last instant. Oh well, who cares? Is Wang Zhi still alive? Alright, so we want to see about him. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video about zombies. I could talk about a little bit of the other zombies, but they're not really as interesting. Hildon was cool. Hildon was number 21. He was a wild zombie. He was the vampire bat zombie that kind of lured Chopper, Nami, and Usopp further into the island, because this looks like a guy that you could trust, certainly. Oh, there was the tree dude, the wild zombie that had a tree. It was a tree that had a face grafted to him, or maybe it was a human zombie that had a tree built around him. I don't know what Hogback was smoking when he made this thing. I don't know why this thing exists, but it does. Cerberus was cool. The Cerberus, that one of the heads was a fox. It was like, Hogback's like, I'm gonna make a guardian beast for Thriller Bark. I know, I'll recreate the mighty Cerberus of Greek lore, the dog of Hades himself, the dog that Heracles had to drag back from the underworld to Eurysthesis. I will forge it. Ah, crap, we only have 2 dog heads. Well, we have a fox. Yeah, fine, just give me the fox, whatever, it doesn't matter. All right, just throw it in the ditch. We got like 600 more of these damn things I need to make by the end of the month. You know, bring me the shadow of that skeleton. Why does a skeleton have a shadow? Whatever, just throw it into a samurai. All right. So those were cool. Sindri was pretty cool, you know. She was a soldier zombie, but never really, it was more of like the personal assistant to Hogback. Very emotional moment there between Sindri and Chopper. You know, Chopper was like shaking her and just being like, you're someone! You can still remember! You don't have to do this! You know, and Sindri just like begins to lock up. And I think the reason for that is, you know, the power of control over the Kage Kage no Mi. You know, Moria has absolute control over all of the zombies. Whatever he orders goes. The only exception to that being when they first get their shadow put in, Oars was like a little rebellious, especially if the size is different between the person's shadow and the zombie's body. So Oars was acting a little bit like Luffy for a while, but after a while, without question, they'll eventually obey their master Moria, okay? But Moria is also very lazy, so he can like delegate orders to other members of the Mysterious Four. So he could be like, all right, all zombie soldiers and all zombie generals, I'm your boss, Kishi, but I'm gonna go take a nap. So you guys all listen to Absalom. So that's a direct order from the master of the owner of the Kage Kage to listen to this other dude. But I think the order definitely, it weakens a little bit, the control power. Absalom doesn't have as absolute control as Moria does, as evidence when like Lola's zombie, the warthog zombie, was like rushing after him trying to marry him, and he's like, I am your commander, stand down, and she didn't do it. So it depends on the zombies' personalities and all that stuff. And even when he's like, you know, zombie generals, go go out and destroy everyone. Captain John was kind of like, ugh, whenever I get around to it, which maybe proves that his body is maybe like resisting the control a little bit, at least from Absalom, and just like, Captain John, go out there and do stuff. And he's like, whatever, lion man, I guess. Glug, glug, glug. He just walks away. So, yeah, there's a lot of other zombies in Thriller Bark. There was the surprise zombies that were pretty cool. The surprise zombies are just fun. There was that one, like, pig head on the wall, and the bear rug zombie, and all of Perona's zombies. There's Kumashi and Hippo Gentleman, all little Perona's, like, members and everything like that. So there's a lot of, like, really cool design zombies. There was, of course, that zombie that, like, pops out of the ground to scare Luffy, and Luffy just, like, walks over, no, you go back in, and just pushes him back down. That looks like something that would happen in, like, Mashal or some parody story. It's like zombies like, ugh! Luffy's like, no, you go back in the dirt. And then that's it. That was pretty damn funny, but yeah. So zombies are a lot of fun, and who knows, maybe the General Zombies hold some secrets to the Rocks crew that we just didn't know this whole time. But yeah, I hope Wang Ji is still alive. John is dead, Silver Axe is probably dead, but let me know what you think about some of these other interesting characters of the General Zombie lot. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Vampire Tekking. I might be back tomorrow, or I might be vanished into the void until next year, so, it only lasts like 3 seconds to me, so see you in 2021! Poof!